What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You guys already know what it is. It's draft season all year long, and today we have a full 7-round Carolina Panthers mock draft here for you guys. Now, this is the first time I'm doing a full 7-round mock draft for a team, so we are in store for something good here. This is the first team-specific mock draft I've done in a while on the channel. So if you guys are interested in anything related to the NFL draft, this is definitely going to be the channel for you. Consider subscribing. We are on the road to 600 subscribers. And if it sounds like I'm sick, it's because I am sick. But we're going to continue to punch out videos anyway. So we are sitting here now with the #1 overall pick, since they traded away a haul to get this. But, you know, I'm for it because this is going to land their franchise quarterback for, at the minimum, the next 5 years. And, if everything works out, hopefully the next 15 to 20. So I really like this right here. We're going to go ahead and take C.J. Stroud. Everything is indicating that they are going to take C.J. Stroud. We even heard McCown say, we're going to get you a house in Carolina, all that stuff at the Ohio State Pro Day. And so they can say whatever they want because they own the pick. No one can stop them from taking this pick. And it seems like Frank Reich really likes his big quarterbacks. We saw it back at his time in Indianapolis when they signed Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz, despite neither of them being that great of quarterbacks when they were acquired. He went out and got them anyway. This is just his build of quarterback. And so C.J. Stroud is a really, really pure passer. I mean, we saw it at his pro day. We see it on tape. Just really good mechanics. And we now know that he has the ability to extend the play. He does have the mobility. He has the athleticism. So, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, these two guys are the full package when it comes to the quarterback position this year. And you kind of know what you're getting. And C.J. Stroud, for as accurately as he can place the football, I think is #1 on a lot of teams' boards in terms of the quarterback position. Now, here with our second-round pick, so despite Carolina trading away a bunch of draft capital in order to get this, they still have a second-round pick this year, and that's why I think this trade is all right. I understand that some Carolina Panthers fans feel like they gave up a lot, but whoever you take at quarterback, they can change, the scenery of what this team's future looks like for years and years to come, if this really works out. And so I like the upside of the trade that you guys made because this is a franchise-changing move right here. And it can go really good. It can go really bad. But I'd like to be on the more optimistic side of things. Now, here with our second pick, taking a look at what's on the board, there are some really good linebackers here at the top of the board. But I feel like Shaq Thompson and Frankie Louvu have been solid. And so we don't need to address that. I feel like there's already a ton of depth at the tight end position, so I feel like that's a position that doesn't need to be addressed as much right now in the early rounds. And the suggestions right now are to go with an edge, and I certainly agree with it. Aside from Brian Burns, there isn't another edge on this team that I feel confident starting on the opposite side. I believe right now it's Yetur Gross-Matos, who really hasn't panned out as a second-round pick himself, but I do like some of these guys that are currently on the board a lot more than him. And, oh, wow, that's an interesting one right there. Okay, if I'm going to follow my big board and my position rankings right here, we're going to go with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Now, they might say that it's a reach here on their board. I don't care because it's not what my board looks like. I do really like guys like B.J. Ojulari and Will McDonald here in this range as well. But I'm a huge Felix Anudike-Uzomah guy just because of his ability to break double teams time and time again. We saw Kansas State play a 3-3-5 a couple of times, throughout the season, was one of their main packages. And so there were a lot of times where he was double teamed and broke through those double teams time and time again. This is a hard-working guy, play in and play out, and is a really physically built guy as well and has a lot of athleticism. I like Felix Anudike-Uzomah right here at the top of the second round. That's exactly where we're going to get him here. So, of course, because of their positional value, it's not going to be graded as high. But like I said, this is my big board, and I really like Felix Anudike-Uzomah for those reasons. We do need another edge rusher. I don't feel like we reached great value right here, in my opinion. Okay, 93. What do we want to do now? So, Joe Tippmann's an interesting one. Do we really need center? I mean, Bradley Bozeman, I think, is solid enough. At this point, I feel like we should take guys that are going to have positional value for us. So Eli Ricks is definitely an interesting one. Like, the cornerback position's an interesting one because you got J.C. Horn, and I think for him, the biggest thing is just staying on the field. You also have Dante Jackson coming back for another year, and then CJ Henderson. I mean, did that trade benefit anyone? I mean, the Panthers got Henderson, who's not very good, and then the Jaguars got Dan Arnold, who's a backup now behind Evan Ingram. Just one of the most useless trades ever. We could take a look at taking a wide receiver here. These are not horrible options at this point, but again, I'm going to stick to my board. There's a lot of guys on this board that I currently like, and one of them is Eli Ricks. I'm really high on Eli Ricks, despite not a lot of people talking about him, and this is where the depth of the cornerback position this year is going to come into play. I'm going to get rid of this ad right here. It's kind of distracting. Where there's going to be a lot of guys who are really talented that are going to fall in the draft, and Eli Ricks is one of those guys for me that I really like that could potentially fall into the middle rounds here. So we're going to go ahead and take him here. And I think that there's a possibility he could start day one. Was a really solid starter at LSU and Alabama. So, playing for those top-tier programs right there, that he's talented from there. But just his ability to react to a pass when it's in the air and, break up the ball, I think is really, really good. So we're going to go with Eli Ricks here. Just, I think, a really solid pick. And there's a really, really good chance that he could find himself in the starting lineup year one for this Carolina Panthers team. Okay, here at number 4, Nathaniel Dell, Kayshon Boutte, Marvin Mims. Wow, just so many great options here. They're suggesting a lot of them. J.L. Skinner, the big hitting safety out of Boise State as well. Okay, safety's an interesting position because you signed Von Bell, right? You also have Jeremy Chin, and I know I'm missing another safety on this team, but point being is that there's depth on this team here at the safety position. So I'm going to refrain from that at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. I wish I knew every part of every team, and I try my best, but it's difficult, So we are really trying our best here. I think what I'm going to do here, oh, wow. I mean, I really like Darius Rush, too. Darius Rush, I think, is a really underrated cornerback prospect if you haven't taken a look at him yet. Tajay Spears is a guy that I really like. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take Nathaniel Dell here. Now, I understand that he is a really small guy, but he's a playmaker. Nathaniel Dell is really a playmaker, and I think because of his size, you're going to find him here as maybe a late day 2, early day 3 guy, but super productive at Houston. Really explosive. And the wide receiver position, although it was addressed because you still have Terrace Marshall, who was originally on the team, and then you also signed Adam Thielen. Rest in peace to his Vikings career. We'll miss him forever. And then you also signed DJ Chark on a really cheap 1-year, $5 million deal. So I think they did a good job of getting quality receivers that were available in free agency, but we really need to look towards the future at this position as well. It doesn't need to be a high priority here in year one, considering what the board is going to look like and where they sit in the draft. And so I think taking a guy here, Nathaniel Dell, who you don't have to commit to as a long-term starter, but can find himself in the starting role, as a very explosive, tiny receiver, I think this can make a lot of sense here in day 3 over here. Okay, now they are suggesting a lot of these running backs here. I don't know how you guys feel about that, just because you signed Miles Sanders in free agency, and then you also have Chuba Hubbard, who I think is a quality rotational guy. I don't think he should ever be starting, but could be a really quality rotation, backup running back. So you guys can, again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. That's what it's for. But I just don't feel like running back has a lot of value on this team at the moment. I don't know. I really could be wrong. What do I want to do here? I think Jacqueline Roy could be an interesting one just because we could shore up that interior D-line now that team has moved over to a 3-4 scheme, but not super high on Jacqueline Roy. I think he's just a big guy, really, who just takes up space on the line. I'm going to refrain from taking running back. And I really like some of these running backs on the board. Tajay Spears, Chase Brown. I even saw Israel Abanikanda down there. I really like all of these running backs. I just don't feel like they play a big enough role. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. If you want to take them here, we'll take them. These are really good running backs. I wouldn't mind spending draft picks on, especially here in the 4th round. I feel like is tremendous value. What I'm going to do here is take Andrew Voorhees. And we don't necessarily need the interior of the offensive line. However, I understand that he tore his ACL, but this is a guy that I would have felt comfortable taking in the early second round, and he's sitting here in the fourth, and he could come back from his injury, compete at those guard spots, and potentially take over. I mean, this was a really, really quality guard at USC and was very consistent throughout his time there. And so I like the upside of him, and I think that if he comes back from that injury and plays like how he did before he got hurt, this is going to be one hell of a steal in the NFL draft. So again, maybe you guys don't like the pick, but I just feel like when you get here in day 3, this is where you start to acquire depth, right? And I think that this would be a really good depth piece at the very least. But I think that this could certainly turn into a starter sometime down the road for the Carolina Panthers. Now, I understand some of you guys might be saying we don't need him, but again, if every single pick were to come out as a starter, we'd all have God squads on our team. But some guys are just picked for depth, and there's a reason why they're sitting all the way down here. So you have to understand that not every pick is necessarily going to be for need. Okay, what do we want to do here? Now, Owen Popo, had a really good combine as well, so you could certainly see his draft stock soaring a little bit here. They really are calling for a running back, so I don't know if I'm missing something, but again, let me know in the comment section below. Jacorian Bennett did a great job at the combine. Mike Morris is really low on this board, in my opinion. Brandon Joseph as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to try and get ourselves a good rotation of edge rushers right here. I actually really like Mike Morris at this point, and we're going to get an A for that as well. We're just acquiring depth at this point, right? I wish all of these late round picks could turn into starters and be absolute gems, but it just doesn't work that way, and some guys are just better off as rotational pieces or backup players. But I do feel like we got 3 guys from Nathaniel Dell to Mike Morris who may not necessarily start day 1, but could potentially be starters sometime down the road. And that's the value that we got out of our late round picks this year. But taking a look at what we got, so C.J. Stroud from the top of the board is our franchise quarterback for years to come. Felix Anudike, projected starter after this draft, opposite of Brian Burns. Eli Ricks, in, I wouldn't say a struggling cornerback room, but a cornerback room that is open for competition. I think could certainly find himself in the starting lineup sometime this season for the Carolina Panthers. Nathaniel Dell, we'll shore up a relatively weak and questionable wide receiving core that's going to be playing for the first time together this year. So all interesting moves there. Andrew Voorhees is a guy that I mentioned I really liked, who I would feel comfortable taking in the early second round before his ACL injury, but his value is going to drop because of that injury, and we could really get ourselves a steal here in the mid to late rounds. And then Mike Morris is another guy where, I think he could potentially be a starter down the road, but right now will be a backup rotational guy. Is more on the physically built side. I would compare him to when the Packers had both Za'Darius and Preston Smith. He's going to be that physical, big body bull rushing presence on the outside. So I really like the way that this draft went. Again, if there's anything you don't like, leave it in the comment section below. I'm here to listen to constructive criticism. But this is the first 7-round mock draft that I did for any team. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did. And until then, I'll see you guys all later. Peace.